Hey everybody, happy Sunday. Thank you. Okay, that was my really bad attempt at a Geddy Lee thank you from one of my favorite albums of all time, All the World's a Stage by Rush. Yes. Oh, how much I stared at this cover. Did we all stare at this cover? If you did, you can hang with me. We all stare at this cover of the stage at Massey Hall. Yes, Massey Hall. That's why that's why one of my favorite live albums. I was just into live albums when I was growing up. For two reasons. Two reasons. And I've said it on this show before if you watch me faithfully. I didn't have a lot of money as a kid, so you had to learn all the songs by a band. So you bought a compilation album. You either bought a greatest hits album or a live album. Live albums were big when I was growing up, so I usually bought the live album. Plus, I wanted to hear reality, which was how are these guys doing it live? Because they're three guys and all this sound. And little did I know that those three guys were the sound, and that's all they recorded. And then other bands like Triumph had a lot of big production with tons of guitars and all kinds of things. I want to see how they did it live, and and the songs were a little bit more out there. Like a good example is I'm not a fan of Smoke on the Water's the recording. I mean, it's obviously an iconic song. I'm not a fan of the studio recording of that, but as a kid I heard Smoke on the Water on Made in Japan, and it's incredible. Like that's whenever I play that song live with anyone, I play that solo that's on Made in Japan rather than the one that's the classic one. But yeah. Anyways, All the World's a Stage. I remember at Towers on Queensway when I was growing up, pulling this album out and in the store, and we used to sit there at the record stores and just stare at album covers, and I used to just stare at this one. Look at he's got double Marshalls, double heads stacked. Isn't that the coolest thing ever? It's double heads, and then Neil Peart's drum kit second to none, and then just the light show, and if you look real closely, I'm not sure if you were a historian on Rush stuff, but shag carpeting. Remember shag carpeting when we were you're probably some of you aren't old enough to remember that, but shag carpeting on the stage, so when they're walking around in their Kiss platform heels, they don't fall down. I guess. I don't know. Maybe. Anyways, if you look at this, look at the pictures inside, and we all want albums like this again, don't we? Yes, we want the gatefold with all the pictures and everything. I just pulled this out of my bin over here, and I knew which one it was because I knew it was the Thick Blue album. It was All the World on Stage. Why am I talking about Rush? Because it's Geddy Lee's birthday this week. Cheers to all you people out there that are surviving summer. It's now August, eh? So that, you know what that means. August means half of it's done. Half a summer. You can extend it a little bit if you want. You can call June summer, obviously, if it's hot enough. We had a kind of a rainy June here where I live, and July was great. August should be great. And then you can extend it a little bit more into September, like as some of the outdoor shows and that happen, Cheers. Geddy Lee, 72 years old. Another fountain of youth guy. I think I don't know. We hasn't been in the public eye for probably 4 or 5 years, but other than interviews and book signings and that kind of thing. But wins the hair lottery if that is his real hair. At 72 to have hair like a 30-year-old. I don't know. Could be real. I don't know. Um, Alex looks like he's living out his living out his real hair days. Geddy, I referenced this album because his singing on this album is incredible. Like, it's just him in his prime. This was the 2112 tour. I think they do side one. Yes, they do side one of 2112 on here live. So Innovators, where way back they're doing their whole side of an album back in the 70s. Great stuff. And then, but the best of the first three albums on here, basically up until 2112, by tour in the end, and Finding My Way. It also marks the Neil Peart's version of the first album, which he did not play on. And interesting, Egos. How much different he tries to make those songs sound. It's interesting. Another gear note is Alex, who's a gear hog, played a Les Paul. Similar to this one, Tobacco Sunburst, actually Les Paul on the entire recording at Massey Hall. My friend Rob Robbins, who was playing in Classic Albums Live some years back, got to play the actual guitar, which kind of freaked me out. If I had to play that guitar, that would be incredible, right? The actual guitar that was on the recording. Kind of like when I played Rick Emmett's guitar, and the guys, their DNA is somewhere on this guitar. Guitar is a very physical instrument, and you hit it hard, and you bend it and scrape it and bang it against things, and it's a very it's a very tactile human instrument. So you play someone else's guitar, and it's them, right? So that's why it's wild to play guitars that have been played by iconic people like Alex Lifeson and Rick Emmett and that. So. Anyhow, I just thought I'd talk about Rush. They were like, if you're Canadian, you took in Rush as your own. They could do no wrong. Even I think we lost a lot of, not lost the fans, but kind of lost a little bit of the oomph after this album here, Signals, which was the first tour that I saw of Rush, being my age and that. So. Then they started going off in the keyboard world. It's funny thing about keyboard world is when you hear interviews with Geddy and Alex now, they weren't much into it. They weren't much into the keyboard world. Geddy was a bass player, and that was his instrument. You see, I saw one interview with him. He said, "This is what I play. I'm a bass player, and I play that." But Geddy. Cheers to you, 72 years old. Not sure how much these guys are going to do musically again. They don't need to. Their popularity got huge after the internet took over their publicity, if you will, and they took them into we watched all the old videos, and then when R40 came around and they were retiring, they were bigger than ever, and they still are. But Rush is definitely if you're Canadian and love them or hate them, I think most people I know love them, and it's more along the lines of this is a Canadian product that was world class, and we love it, and it's different. It's different. Every album's different. It's like they changed this logo. If you notice this about Rush, most bands would keep the same logo. Iron Maiden, kind of a brand name stamped on the album, but Rush changed their logo every album. Every album. Check it out. Check it out. Different logo on every album. But, I think that's an interesting thing. And I think that had a lot to do with, the music was different on every album. Every album's different. Rush, the only if you're a Rush historian, like some of my friends are, the only band that can do their entire catalog backwards and still make a show of it. Think about this. The Beatles did that. If the Beatles were around, they were going to do their hit songs backwards. They'd have to start with, Let It Be and, Hey Jude, some of the biggest songs of all time, and then go backwards to the Hamburg days. Kind of wouldn't work. Rush can do that. just because the music is so different. You know, they can start at Clockwork Angels and slowly work their way back, and then end up in you know, the final song. I was probably Working Man, or you know, one of the songs off the first album, and still rock out at that point. You know, incredible. That I think that's the only band that can do that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you know, I think that's the only band that can do that. But anyhow, cheers to Geddy Lee, 72 years old, rock legend, Canadian rock legend. Rush is incredible. If you guys are Rush fans, the guitar player for Foo Fighters has a show on the internet, Shifty. I can't remember the name. That's terrible. Why do I even just come up with these names? But anyways, look up Alex Lifeson's interview with the Foo Fighters guitarist. Great interview. He takes apart Limelight, the solo of Limelight, and which is incredible as it is. One thing I didn't know about Limelight, and I think I did kind of know this from back in interviews from years and years ago, because I'm getting old and I can't remember everything, but Limelight was what they called a comp. You know, he did a bunch of solos, and then Geddy and Terry Brown kicked him out of the room, and basically chopped together a bunch of solo ideas, and then he'd bring Alex back into the room and say, what do you think of this? And if you hear the solo, it's kind of like that, and I guess they did a lot of solos like that for Alex, but then he's got to go play it live, and that was one of his things. Well, now you chop this solo together, and now I got to go play it live, and as one piece of music that everyone's going to know. And meanwhile, I just riffed off a bunch of stuff, but really interesting. And my another guy I follow on YouTube, his name is Ben Eller, who takes apart the entire song except for the solo, and really rips apart how many time signatures changes there actually are in Limelight, which is amazing. Incredible. Why didn't I play Limelight at the beginning of this show? I played Bastille Day because Bastille Day is the opening song off of one of my favorite live albums of all time. Lots of live albums were great. Kiss Live, my favorite album, UFOs, Strangers in the Night, another great album. It was just that much more out there for live albums anyways. But anyhow, happy birthday, Geddy. How's everybody doing? The summer is creeping by. Had a great show last week. A great couple of shows. Actually, when technically it was three shows. Yes, we played Chudley's in Milton. I think I talked about this last week when I pre-recorded my show. Chudley's in Milton, and I can give you the full review now. Incredible. We sold out both shows with Keep the Faith. Incredible crowds. Probably 600, 700 people for each show, maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure what the actual attendance was. And then on Sunday we played in Mattawa, the Voyager Days. Probably one of the better gigs I've played in my life, and because not necessarily because of the crowd was amazing, the band was amazing, support groups were great, incredible performances by our friends in Aeroforce, the Aerosmith tribute. Go out and see them. And another incredible band played in Between Us and Aeroforce was a band called Appetite for Democracy, one of the most amazing Guns N' Roses tributes you'll ever see. Don't even bother seeing anyone else. This is the band. this is the band. They're from Montreal, and they're great guys. They stuck around and watched our set, and we talked after the show. And younger guys, lots of energy. You know, we were watching the show, Chris and I were watching the show going, hey, we got to step it up a little bit. And, you know, we did. But anyhow, thanks to everybody in Mattawa. It was worth the drive. Let's just say that. Stuff coming up this coming weekend. Keep the Faith is at East Gwillimbury if you're up in the Newmarket area, or the east end of Toronto, or northeast, yeah, 404 and over. East Gwillimbury on Saturday night. Check our website for gigs. Again, Bridge on Fire on a little bit of a vacation time from now until September. So I'll be posting new Bridge on Fire dates coming up very soon. And see you out there on the road, guys. It's going to be great. Come to the CNE on August 23rd for Keep the Faith. You're going to basically hear every song we know, because it's a long show. 3 sets in the midway stage, and keeps us on our toes. Anyways, have a great one, guys. Take it easy. Happy birthday, Geddy, and have a great one. Enjoy August. Take it easy. Bye bye.